There's a kind of unease that lives quietly in the depths of anyone who's never stopped to look inside. A discomfort that sometimes feels like simple exhaustion, but isn't physical at all. It's a weight that drags itself through the chest, a heaviness no one can quite explain when it shows up, because it doesn't really have a name. It visits in the middle of the night, when all the voices are finally silent and the room feels too big. It shows up in line at the grocery store, in the middle of a casual conversation, in the pause between one message and the next. It's a whisper that asks, "Is all this really yours? Are you really the one deciding?" Some people try to drown that whisper with noise, the noise of tasks, appointments, goals, achievements, the noise of promises of control, because it's comforting to believe you're in charge, that every step comes from conscious will, that wanting is enough to bend the world in your favor. But whoever looks deeper, whoever dares, starts to see there's a thread moving behind every choice. And that thread isn't always visible. Since humans first carved symbols into stone, there have always been those who whispered about forces that weave everything visible. They called them hermetic laws, universal principles, astral light. Eliphas Levi, a magician from another century, called the astral light a living ocean, a fluid that carries every thought, feeling, and desire. And most of the time, it silently governs those who never learned to govern themselves. The quantum matrix, that word that sounds so trendy now, isn't a machine made of wires and chips. It's a machine made of symbols, of archetypes, of codes, a living mechanism fed by unexamined thoughts, emotions left to rot, memories unresolved. It's a collective mirror that only needs one thing to keep working: unconsciousness. And that's why so many feel proud to manifest everything: wealth, love, success. They chase techniques, lists, vision boards, decrees. They repeat powerful words in front of the mirror, swear that this time it will be different. But they ignore the brutal truth. The mind that wants to create is the same mind that hides. And everything it hides shapes the reality they claim they want to transform. It's a cruel paradox, because the desire is real, but so is the prison. What you want shouts on the surface, but what you vibrate whispers at the root, and the whisper always wins over the shout. That's why so many run in circles. They try to change the setting, the address, the partner, the routine. But the echo stays. The old script repeats. The matrix feeds. The astral light molds. And what people call destiny is really just the script the unconscious part wrote, while the conscious part pretended to be in charge. Maybe you've never noticed you're inside this game. Maybe you feel, vaguely, that there's something bigger. A weight with no face. A hand you can't see. Maybe you felt it in that tired look in the mirror, in that doubt that haunts you just before you sleep. Why does it all feel so hard to change? And here's the detail so few dare to face. It's not about lack of strength. It's not bad luck. It's not some punishment from forgotten gods. It's just programming, a vibrational architecture that weaves the threads of what's possible and what's allowed for those who live asleep inside. And while the mind dreams of controlling everything, the part that really commands is the one nobody wants to visit. Eliphas Levi used to say, symbols are anchors, doors, keys. The modern world forgot that. It trades living symbols for disposable slogans. It hands the power of archetypes to people who know more about marketing than about magic. And so most people walk around wearing seals on their foreheads they never chose. But those seals shape what can and can't happen. The result is this: a weariness no one can fully explain, a looped reality that changes its mask but repeats the same frequency. People swear they're creating it all, but in practice, they're just dancing to strings pulled by invisible hands. It's a silent matrix. It's not a villain that hates you. It's just a system that runs perfectly for those who never bother to see. But the moment you see, everything changes. Because the one who sees is no longer a piece on the board. They become the player. The first link that breaks the chain isn't a secret technique. It's not an expensive formula. It's the act of looking inside without running away, seeing what really vibrates when no one is watching, listening to what the body whispers when the mind tries to lie, and realizing there's a point where the thread can be cut or reconnected. Maybe that's why right now, something in you feels more awake than it did when this video began. Maybe it's just a spark, a memory of something you once knew but stopped hearing. Because the real secret has always been this: the matrix doesn't need force to trap you. It only needs you to forget that the real control has always been within. This isn't the end, it's just a crack, a beam of light inside the cell. And once a cell is lit, it starts to lose its power. Because darkness is what feeds unconsciousness, and what's seen no longer rules in silence. This is how it begins, not by shouting orders at the universe, but by listening to the part inside that still whispers you command nothing, and then, for the first time, to truly command. Not every prison has iron bars or visible locks. Most of the cells that rule human life aren't built with walls, but with vibrations so subtle that few dare to name them. They're walls made of unseen memories, recycled emotions, thoughts chewed over so many times they blur into what you think you are. The cell is vibrational, not physical. But believe this: anyone who's felt its weight knows it presses tighter than chains. You can move houses, change your address, learn a new skill, travel far away. You can paint the walls, change your haircut, tattoo words of strength onto your skin. You can collect diplomas, medals, promises of freedom. But as long as the frequency pulsing inside you stays the same, everything around you reorganizes to obey the old script. The Kybalion speaks of the law of vibration as one of the keys that stitches reality together. Everything vibrates, everything moves, everything dances. But the dance isn't random. It follows the rhythm your mind and body hold in the invisible. Vibration isn't a mantra spoken aloud. It's truth in the gut. It's what leaks out when you think you're hiding it. It's the held breath, the fear disguised as bravery, the resentment no one sees, but the field hears like a drum. Think about the cycles that repeat. Relationships that start fresh but end the same. Jobs that excite you for months and then tighten like the same old handcuff. Dreams that stall. Promises of change that wither. Every pattern is a web of energy that feeds itself. And what keeps that web alive is the same heart that beats to sustain it. It's not punishment, it's vibrational coherence. Modern neuroscience tries to decode this as neural loops. The brain, hungry to save energy, recycles old pathways. The psyche, wired for survival, creates emotional shortcuts that feel like safety. And so, without realizing it, the mind becomes a prisoner of itself. Each day mirrors the last, wrapped in distractions that make the cell feel like a comfortable home. And to make sure no one suspects, The system offers rewards. A notification on your phone, a quick purchase that makes your heart race for a second, a bit of gossip that numbs the fear of looking inward, small hits of dopamine that feed the illusion of something new. But underneath, the same thing moves. And if you stop to feel, you'll see. It's just the cell changing the color of its walls so the prisoner doesn't notice they never left. But the body knows. The body never lies. It warns you through insomnia, stomach knots, a tight throat, a weight in your chest. The body tries to shout where the mind stays silent. A chill that rises for no reason. A déjà vu that prickles your skin. A recurring dream that insists on showing you the pattern. It's the field whispering, "Look at what repeats." And few listen, because listening demands stopping. And stopping is dangerous for anyone who built an identity on running away. The spell is perfect because it's discreet. Those who don't see what vibrates believe the enemy lives outside. They blame the boss, the partner, the government, fate. But the true jailer lives inside, what goes unfelt. It's the anger pushed down into your liver, the sleeping guilt that shapes your choices, the inherited hurt that pulses like a magnet, replaying the same story with new faces. The only crack is the instant of awareness. 1 second when the mind stops, the chest burns, the eyes see what they used to pretend not to see. It's tiny, but that's where the cell trembles. Hermes whispered, "Everything has polarity." The key is in the opposite. If the spell stands on automatic repetition, it breaks in the unexpected choice. Silence where there was always shouting. A step forward where there was always fear. A whispered yes where there was always a no. But the world doesn't teach you to guard that moment. It teaches you to run, to do more, to push. It teaches you to paint the wall instead of tearing down brick by brick. And so the cell stays pretty, but alive. And whoever doesn't watch repeats. And whoever repeats feeds the spell. Maybe that's why, right now, as you listen or read, you feel a slight burn in your chest. Maybe it's just an unease. Maybe it's a chill. It's the field reminding you, you know. You always knew. Because the cell has no lock. It never did. It lives on the frequency you keep alive yourself. And every time you feel, instead of running away, a brick comes loose. And once the first brick falls, the rest can't hold much longer. Vibration is law. What you vibrate is what repeats. But whoever truly feels it breaks the echo. And whoever breaks the echo one day wakes up and sees the world is still the same. But the inside is not. And when the inside changes, the outside has no choice but to follow. That's the crack no one sells in ready-made courses. It's the secret no one can hand you. Because only you can decide to stop sustaining what you always sustained. And on the day the whole cell crumbles, the world will call it a miracle. But only you will know. It wasn't a miracle. It was a decision. It was presence. It was remembering the key was always there in your chest, trembling, whispering, waiting for the day you'd have the courage to open the gate without asking permission from anyone. There's a phrase that spread like a promise. You are the creator of your reality. It sounds powerful, seductive, almost liberating. But if it were really that simple, why do so many who repeat it still sleep inside the same cramped room of limitations? Why do those who swear they've learned to create keep tripping over the same invisible walls that have always been there? The answer lives in a detail that few can bear to face. It's not a lie that you create. The lie is that you create alone, without looking at who holds the brush in the other hand. Hermetic mentalism. The mind is all was never meant to decorate a t-shirt. It was carved into words as a warning. The mind does create, but not just the part you show when you wake up. It's also the mind you avoid when you lie down. It's the buried part that decides in silence. It's the underworld where echoes live. Echoes of who you used to be, of what you once believed, swallowed, inherited. And it's that part that shapes the field before any beautiful affirmation has a chance to bloom. Most people want to manifest without diving in. They want to skip the dense layers and surf only on the surface of the mind, because the surface is light. It says what you want to hear. But the underground is heavy. Down there live pacts you signed without realizing. Phrases someone told you as a child that you still carry in your flesh, like a vibrational tattoo. Memories that form the silent script. You don't deserve it. You're not capable. You'll lose it all. Carl Jung tore the veil for anyone willing to see. What you do not make conscious controls you, and you call it fate. That's why so many call themselves conscious creators, yet live like actors hypnotized by old scripts. The mind talks about freedom. The unconscious laughs, sitting crowned as king. Think about how many times you've declared something with blind faith. Wealth, love, health, transformation. And the echo never came. The desire hit the ceiling of your own field and dripped back down. And then came the excuses. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe I didn't wish hard enough. But deep down, it's because the words were clean in your mouth but dirty in your vibration. It's harsh to see it, because it's not about lack of effort. Many repeat decrees until their tongues go dry, fill notebooks, pay for courses, drown themselves in power phrases. But reality doesn't bow to the force of words alone. It bends to coherence. And coherence doesn't live in what you say. It lives in what your field sustains when no one is watching. The quantum matrix, this mesh of symbols and frequencies, is a fair mirror. It doesn't obey your words. It obeys your root. As long as the root is cracked, the trunk of manifestation will lean toward fear. It's not a curse. It's law. It's vibration. That's why the old Magus never shouted orders at the universe. He stayed silent until he heard what inside him needed to dissolve. He knew, before you decree, you must distill. Before you create, you must cleanse. Before you lift up the word, the soil must stop vibrating in conflict, because the field does not tolerate dissonance. Incoherent vibration becomes incoherent reality. This is where many give up, because it takes courage to stop pointing outward. It's easier to blame God, karma, planets, other people's envy, than to sit in front of the harshest mirror, your own shadow. It hurts to feel that parts of you don't want what you want, but it's freeing to realize these parts aren't enemies. They're the keepers of the key. When you ignore them, they guard the gate. When you integrate them, they open it. That's how the divided mind becomes whole. That's how the conscious creator stops being a myth and becomes a real force. Not by the force of wanting, but by the truth of being. And if there's one question worth more than any expensive ritual, it's this. Which part of me still holds the fear of receiving what I say I want? It's not self-accusation, it's self-observation. The Magus doesn't force reality. He talks to it. The initiate doesn't force the door open. He clears the lock, slowly, until the door itself wants to swing wide. In the end, it's not about more willpower. It's about more truth. It's not about pushing the universe. It's about stopping the push inside for everything you don't want to see. And when that happens, the field has no choice. It reflects the whole creator, not the one pretending to be ready, but the one who truly is. And that one, no one can sabotage, not even himself. Not every desire is born clean. Sometimes the wish carries the seed of the fear it tries to deny. It's a paradox few want to see. The force of wanting can secretly hold the confession that you don't truly believe you deserve it. It's like trying to push a river to make it flow faster. You tire your arms, you stir the water, but the current ignores your effort. It keeps moving in the direction already carved, not by the strength of your hands, but by the invisible bed that guides it beneath. That's why so many people make urgent declarations. They repeat power words, collect techniques, join groups that promise to open magical portals in exchange for more mental effort. But those who try to force life almost always reveal one thing. Deep down, they still doubt. And the field, silent and precise, is never fooled. It listens to the fear first, then the mantra. It feels the tightness in the chest first, then the loud words. The quantum hijack begins like this. The wanting is already contaminated. The intention is declared outward, but inside it carries noise. And noise is what the universe obeys. Because words can lie. Vibration never does. Hermes made this so clear that almost no one wanted to accept it. The pendulum of polarity doesn't tolerate excess. Too much force turns into resistance. Too much urgency creates a block. The harder you push, the more reality pushes back with equal strength. It's the law of balance. The universe isn't cruel. It's too fair. It gives back everything, including what you try to hide. Think about how many times you wanted something so badly that you suffocated your own path. A relationship you tried to save at any cost, and the more you clung to it, the more it bled. A project you pushed with urgency, and the more energy you poured in, the more the ground seemed to disappear. That's the paradox of effort. When it's born from lack, it creates more lack. When it springs from fear, it feeds more fear. The Akasha, this living field of records, knows this. It reads the original code of your intention, not the pretty layer you show. That's why Akashic patterns are so stubborn. They're vibrational imprints that shape your present, even when you try to chant a new future into being. It's like wanting to plant flowers in barren soil, yet wasting all your effort choosing expensive seeds while forgetting to turn the earth. The spell isn't in the words. It's in the coherence between what you say you want and what your roots still hold. And still, the quantum matrix doesn't sabotage you because it hates you. It does what it does because it's moved by the sum of everything you haven't cleared. It's a perfect mirror, without morality, without guilt. It's a living law. The field never lies. It bends to the strongest vibration. And the strongest vibration is almost always the fear you never admit. Many people see this and panic. But the paradox isn't punishment, it's a key. The same wanting that traps you can free you once it stops being desperate. Once it becomes the natural extension of a clear field, not a crutch to patch up empty spaces. It's when the desire stops begging for permission to exist. It's when wanting doesn't fight the flow. It moves with it. Look at those who truly flow. People who manifest without making noise. People who want, but don't force. People who release, not because they're careless, but because they understand the universe moves best when they move inside themselves. The magus doesn't push reality. He realigns the riverbed. He adjusts the frequency that decides how the river behaves. And this is so simple, it can be unsettling. Because it isn't spectacular. It doesn't rack up likes. It doesn't turn into a show. It's invisible. It's wanting without fear, without hurry, without urgency. It's wanting not because something is missing, but because it already is. The field understands this. When the frequency is clear, the akasha softens, the pendulum rests, the universe gives back without struggle. Maybe you feel this now. How many of your desires are still desperate attempts to cover the emptiness that hums louder than any word? And if it's true, let it be welcome. Seeing is always the start. It's the beginning of the end of the hijack. Because the part that hijacks is the same part that hands back the key the moment you stop shouting outward. And finally, listen to the whisper inside. You never had to push the river. You were always the source. Anyone trying to break the spell always wants something grand. They want an ancient ceremony, a secret word, a hidden rite behind the walls of an old temple. They want signs, candles, sacred symbols. But those who hold true power know this. The spell breaks in the mundane. The vibrational cell doesn't crumble through shouting, but through microacts the rational mind thinks are far too small to have any power. The mind wants force. The field wants coherence. And coherence is born from details no one applauds. It's in the moment when your body trembles with fear, but your action does the opposite. It's in the second your mouth wants to scream, but you breathe and hold back the word. It's in the minute when every part of you says, run, but you stay. This is how neuro-spiritual recoding is stitched together, not through theory, but through tiny actions that loosen invisible bricks. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity. The brain, when confronted with a new choice, redraws its electrical maps. Every synapse is a path, every repetition is a track, and every new reaction interrupted carves a fresh line. The true magus knows biology is magic, and magic is biology waking up. Everything starts before thought. It's emotion that triggers the spell, the fear that tightens your chest, the anger that warms your skin, the shame that curves your spine. If you try to control the mind without feeling the root, nothing changes. The trick is to watch the emotion arrive, taste it, name it without judgment. Right there, in that first tremor, lies the key. Then comes polarity. Hermes whispered, "Everything is dual. The opposite is the password. The pattern wants to pull you into repetition. You step into its reversal. If the mind says run, you stay. If the mind says explode, you quiet down. If the mind wants to hush you, you speak. The body trembles, but obeys, because every spell fears being faced with its opposite move. But doing it once isn't enough. The vibrational matrix laughs at those who try once and quit. It's in the ritual of conscious repetition that the field bends. The seal must be anchored, and the one who anchors it is the symbol. Not a symbol you buy ready-made, not a mantra borrowed from someone else, but a seal born in the body, a touch on your own skin, an object charged with intent, a word that doesn't need to sound mystical, it just needs to be true. A gesture can be a reverse spell. A symbolic act can be more powerful than any decree screamed into the wind. This is how you carve a crack in the vibrational wall. Not with random explosions, but with tiny daily cuts. The cell vibrates through repetition, so only the reverse repetition can break it down. No one needs to know. It's not a performance, It's intimacy. It's the inner temple operating in silence. It's the magus walking his ritual while the world sleeps awake. It's the initiate who understands. Every tiny choice rewrites a line in the Akasha. Every microact is a command for the field to follow. And it does, sooner or later. Because coherence can't be forced, it must be proven. And the field can't resist proven coherence. Think now about every time you tried grand gestures, crash diets, extreme promises, bursts of courage, and then everything slipped back to where it started. It's because the mind loves explosions, but the field vibrates in constancy. Neuroplasticity doesn't bow to fireworks, it bows to daily drops. That's how stone is worn down, not with a single blow, but with water falling without stopping. In the end, neuro-spiritual recoding isn't about looking mystical. It's about being honest. It's about seeing the pattern before it swallows the day. It's about having the courage to break the spell exactly where it hates it most, in the small detail where everything seemed guaranteed. It's about remembering every time the old impulse tries to drag you back, that one tiny different act is worth more than 1,000 shouted mantras spoken without feeling. When this becomes practice, the cell's grip weakens. The old field that once seemed unbreakable begins to soften, and the magus discovers he doesn't need grand rituals, because he himself has become the ritual. Every breath, every choice, every symbol etched into the routine is a living password, and no cell can hold back a living password forever. Since the beginning, humanity has known that words convince, but symbols rule. A symbol speaks straight to what lives behind your eyes, to the parts your conscious thoughts don't guard. It whispers into the mind a command that doesn't sound like an order, but like an ancient truth. And so it shapes millions who swear they choose freely, yet follow maps they never realized they carry. Religions built empires with symbols. Governments keep fear alive with symbols. Brands sell status, identity, belonging, all encoded in images you wear, defend, tattoo onto your skin. A logo isn't just a logo. An archetype isn't just an old story. It's a vibrational program running inside your personal mind, stitching you to the collective mind. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, an invisible web where symbols light up like beacons, the sacrificed hero, the silent martyr, the untouched virgin, the ruthless traitor. These figures live inside every culture, travel through generations, reincarnate in new costumes, movies, series, memes, slogans, and most people swallow them without question. It's just entertainment. But the deeper mind has no sense of humor. It accepts the symbol, obeys the command, shapes the frequency. Meanwhile, the third eye, meant to decode what lies behind each seal, is bombarded with noise. Artificial lights, screens, endless stimuli that dull the portal. The inner radar that could read the codes becomes a passive receiver. And so the game continues. Distraction puts the watchman to sleep. Images stir the hidden desire, and everything that vibrates shapes the field. The ancients didn't play with this. Those who studied Hermes, Thoth, the seals encrypted in emerald tablets, knew a symbol is a key. It can unlock or lock tight. It can encode power or program submission. That's why they were kept secret. That's why they demanded initiation. It wasn't vanity. It was protection. Because whoever holds the key to the symbol rules the field. Today, the world has flipped this axis. Living symbols have been swapped for cheap slogans, mass-sold, swallowed without question. You wear the logo on your chest, wave the flag in your hand, add the hashtag to your bio. Proud to defend an idea that never came from you. And every archetype vibrating unseen is an open door for the collective to pilot you from within. Think about how many beliefs that shape your fears have no name, but wear a symbolic face. The inner failure that paralyzes you when everything seems possible. The inner traitor that sabotages the relationship you finally opened. The invisible moralist who shames you for wanting what your body naturally craves. None of this is just thought. It's archetypal programming. It's the symbol weaving your psyche so you obey without realizing it. But whoever observes tears the veil. When the symbol is decoded, it loses power. When the archetype is named, it dissolves. That's why magi guard their seals. That's why temples hide their emblems behind layers of metaphor. Because a symbol understood is a symbol freed. And a freed symbol returns sovereignty to the magus over their own field. The pineal gland, the third eye, so trivialized today, is at its core the sentinel of these symbols. It's not about seeing ghosts or predicting the future. It's about decoding the hidden script running inside you. It's about sensing where each impulse, each desire, each fear comes from. It's about asking, is this seal mine? Does this image belong to me? Who does the archetype vibrating in me serve? Maybe the answer won't come as words. Maybe it comes as discomfort. A shiver that says, this isn't mine. And in that instant, the crack opens. The script loses part of its hold, because the one who truly sees takes back a fragment of the key. And when the key returns to the right hands, the collective loses control. Creating your own symbol, personal, meaningful, woven into your daily life, is more than aesthetic. It's an act of vibrational sovereignty, a living seal that anchors who you truly are, not who you were programmed to be. It can be simple, a gesture, an image drawn on paper, a word whispered for your field alone to hear. Small to the world's eyes, but massive to the spell that dies the moment you decide, I carry my own seal. In the end, there's one non-negotiable truth. The law exists, and no human will, no rehearsed mantra, no fiery decree can bend it when everything inside screams the opposite. As within, so without. As above, so below. This hermetic axiom isn't just a pretty phrase printed in an esoteric book. It's an immortal reminder. The outer reality does nothing that isn't authorized by the inner field. Most people chase shortcuts. They want to skip the part that bleeds, that confronts, that dissolves buried patterns. They want the pretty part, the miracle, the unexpected check, the perfect love, the body that never gets sick. But the law doesn't bargain. There's no trick. The field obeys what you vibrate. It doesn't care what you say you want. It gives back what your chest sustains when no one's watching. Hermes, Thoth, Levi. They all said the same thing in different voices. Whoever ignores the invisible architecture becomes a brick in someone else's construction. It's the collective unconscious feeding on individual unconsciousness. It's the quantum matrix running perfectly because every mind sleeps believing it's awake. It's the oldest, most elegant, most silent spell, keeping the magician unconscious inside his own temple. But whoever dares to open their eyes opens portals, not because they discover some new technique, but because they stop lying to themselves. They see the scripts, they name the symbols, they feel the vibration without numbing it. The cell can't hold against the one who sees. The field can't resist the one who aligns word, emotion, and action. Reality, sooner or later, bows. It's not a spell. It's vibrational geometry. Pure, precise, unbreakable. What remains is choice. And choice is just a softer word for something deeper. Responsibility. You can keep repeating inherited symbols, carrying the archetype of the controlled, obeying patterns you never asked for. You can keep calling destiny what's really just habit. You can use words of light to cover the mud that keeps bubbling underneath. And everything will stay as it is, perfectly fair. Or you can choose to tear the veil, to revisit every corner where the fear of feeling hides, to pierce the bubble of pretty phrases, to touch the root where the script lives that sabotages everything you promise yourself. And once the veil is torn, it never settles back the same. Because whoever sees no longer sleeps the same. And whoever wakes, even trembling, holds part of the key. Practical action isn't about blowing everything up at once. It's about weakening the pattern. It's about watching every emotion, every thought that tries to slip by in disguise. It's about planting micro-rituals in the body, conscious symbols that hold the new frequency steady. It's about remembering every day that the temple is you. Not the book, not the altar, not the teacher, you. And yes, it takes work. It's not romantic, not overnight. It's silent, repetitive, sometimes lonely. But there is no other way. You either break the law, in the sense of mastering it, or you are ruled by it. There is no vibrational middle ground. The field makes no exceptions. It mirrors. And if it mirrors everything. The courage to go where it hurts. The act of guarding the symbol that governs your mind. The gesture that rips the inherited archetype apart. It mirrors the magus, who remembers that mastery isn't about creating realities from nothing. It's about sustaining coherence in the unseen until the seen has no choice but to bend. As within, so without. As above, so below. As remembered, so freed. And if there's silence now, it's because that silence is a voice saying, you always knew. You always held the key. You have always been the right, the symbol, the spell. And if you still breathe, you still can. Because there's no lock for the one who finally decides to guard their own field. The rest is echo. The rest is veil. The rest is repetition. And no veil survives the gaze of the one who chooses to see and never forgets again. If this journey has resonated with your spirit, leave a silent acknowledgement in the comments. An affirmation not for the world, but for your own soul. To continue on this journey of remembrance and awakening, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and to like this video. And remember, it is not about what you want, but about who you are.